We are living in a digital era. Some of the biggest voices in politics rose through digital media, not more traditional means. And many people spend the bulk of their leisure time these days on their cell phones as tech companies push even more virtual activity, like ChatGPT pushing you to do more AI. These trends also are facing a kind of backlash. There's activism against data centers, to the more personal choices people make to just opt out of all of this digital stuff. People are trying phoneless social time. Imagine that. Or getting back to the fundamentals of just getting together, going outside. And that brings us to a special segment right now that's actually in part about vinyl records, including my own parents' records that I grew up on. More on that in a moment. But the context here is that a lot of today's top artists are making a return to vinyl as a throwback, a way to deeply steep in an album instead of jumping around streaming just singles or being distracted. Taylor Swift just sold over 1.5 million vinyl copies in the U.S., which drove the entire U.S. vinyl industry's revenue over $1 billion, and it was the first time that had happened in decades. So there is a real comeback here. The Guardian even dubbed it the Taylor Swift effect. And a lot of those fans may have first discovered these artists like Taylor online. There's a surge in music interest and in concert sales, partly because of these new digital platforms. YouTube Music gives people more access to free songs than any point in history, and over 2 billion people use it. That company, which is part of Google, also kind of showed it wanted to get really serious about bridging the classical and the new in music by hiring longtime record executive Leor Cohen, music mogul who put out records, tapes, and CDs across several decades with some of the top artists you can think of. Cohen is now global head of music for Google and YouTube. He previously joined us in our Maverick series right here, bringing his deadpan confidence to this quick moment.
Reading off a list of some who you've worked with, some of whom we've discussed: Beastie Boys, Run DMC, Tribe, Ja Rule, Method Man, Ludacris, Estelle, Mariah Carey, Shania
Public
Twain.
Enemy.
Public Enemy, Nickelback.
Yes. The Killers. It just goes on and on and on. What about it?
What about it? Now, that's Cohen's style. He just launched a new YouTube show, On Wax, where he invites people to share their favorite vinyl records in that old school form. And he invited me to join an episode dropping just this week. I shared albums that I first discovered in my parents' actual vinyl collection growing up. Now, Cohen got his start in hip-hop back in the early days where the establishment and a lot of, frankly, white-led labels were shunning what was a new, predominantly black art form. And he mentioned how hip-hop provided its own news at the time. He even dubbed it the MS Now of the black experience.
In many ways, it was the CNN or the MS Now of the black experience. Yes, it was harsh, but it was a very clear message to people, and people understood it on the streets.
Absolutely, and you talk about that connection to storytelling and news and getting the word out. You know, Jay-Z said, where the hammer's rung, the news cameras never come. The proof is in the pudding. Hip-hop is one of the country's most popular exports. Not everyone likes everything that our leaders or our politics are doing or how our capitalism necessarily works on the world stage. Hip-hop and some of our movies, when I go around the world, that's what you find people love. And hip-hop is a universal language in that sense. It often starts with the marginalized. It comes often in urban areas and often in the American experience in black and minority-led areas. But not only that, it's clearly understandable and universal in that way.
That's some of the dialogue we had. Now, hosting The Beat, I don't really talk much about my childhood or family life growing up. I mean, I'm interviewing other people. Maybe ask them about how they grew up. But here the tables were turned, turntable reference, and Leor asked me about the records I grew up on. You can see this photo of me with my dad back in the day. I also recounted how I went through their record collection that my mom and dad had saved, including Jimmy Cliff's The Harder They Come.
Why would your parents, wouldn't they have Chopin and Bach? How did the Harder They Come show up in the crate?
I gotta say,
who are they and where are you from?
My mom is from Detroit, Michigan. My father's from Jerusalem, moved to Evanston, Illinois in the hippie period. My dad was a doctor on a Native American reservation in Western Washington, which is what moved them out there. So the music, the culture, the activism, that was natural to all of them. So we had a very diverse record collection. Yes, we had classics. Yes, we had the rock and roll and the Aretha and the Dylan. But we had a lot of this. And so that's such a strong memory for me in this vinyl form.
Put that needle on and let's bump a little of this.
You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want, but you must try.
It's a life lesson too.
Absolutely.
You can get it if you want.
Shout out to Jimmy Cliff and my folks for that uplifting lesson. We also discuss live concerts, which really unite people in communal listening. At 14 years old, I first got hooked on the great jam band, The Grateful Dead. They, of course, played Woodstock and kept trucking in various forms for over 5 decades. Deadheads now span pretty much every corner of culture and society, and we discussed that.
The badge of a Deadhead is how many shows they've been
I
to.
think that's right, yeah.
How many shows have you been to?
Well, with Jerry as part of the band,
I mean,
too, because I was 14.
Well,
and I
that's
saw
a gift.
Yeah, that was special. I saw him twice in Seattle when I was 14. Jerry passed away. I remember where I was. That was the following year.
Did your
Figurations?
parents take you?
No, we just went. I went with my friends.
You went with your friends to
Memorial
a Deadhead?
Stadium. Yeah.
You really come from a progressive family.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Did they give you the tab, too?
No tab. No drugs. I mean, sober show, to be honest with you. Yeah. Just
Okay.
locked in. I remember I was 14 and I was watching it. And I was like, what is this? And then around me, there were all the people doing the crazy dances and stuff. And I remember at 14 being like, I think some of these people are on drugs. Like, I had that awareness, but I wasn't joining them, but I felt like I was getting a mind expansion without doing that.
You really can get that expansion. It's core to so many types of culture, right? Songs, concerts, like I mentioned, a novel or a movie. It takes you a place you might not personally go. So, in closing tonight's show, I want to know, what are the records that you beatniks grew up on? We talk about music around here. My 3 for this show, again, were the Dead album, Working Man's Dead, The Harder They Come by Jimmy Cliff, and Black on Both Sides by Mos Def. So to answer this question, you can go to my social pages, at Ari Melber right now, on Facebook, Instagram, or any of them, at Ari Melber, and just leave us a comment on the top album you grew up on. And if you want, tell me if it was vinyl. We'll share some of the answers on air next week. And if you want to see the rest of that whole interview that Lior did with me, turning the tables, and hear more about my family, you can go to youtube.com/Ari Melber, youtube.com/Ari Melber, or search Lior Ari on YouTube, and you'll find it